Hi, everybody. Good morning. Today we're going to be completing a short writing activity based on Francisco Jimenez's story, Inside Out. We're going to be using some of the evidence and some of the activities that we've done throughout this week to create our final writing reflection assignment. Okay. We'll be reviewing the lesson objectives that we went over today, as well as our academic vocabulary words, anxious and understand. We'll be looking at the full text of Inside Out. We'll be reviewing the text today. We'll be completing a short do now warm-up activity to sort of reflect and refresh our memories on some of this week's previous assignments. We'll be doing a quick modeling activity where we will model for the students how exactly to complete this writing assignment. We'll continue to review that and provide scaffolding, sentence starters, graphic organizers, and the support necessary to help our ENL students build their writing skills. And finally, there's a graphic organizer for students to complete that will help them create an organized, well-written piece of writing, analyzing a central idea and using text evidence. Let's jump right into today's lesson. Can somebody please read today's essential question for today? Good. How can the people around us affect our growth? Good. Can somebody please read today's lesson objectives for today? Good. To analyze the development of a central idea or theme in a text. Good. We're going to be continuing focusing on the central ideas of the text we read and finding evidence for those central ideas. Secondly, to demonstrate independence, selecting and applying words and phrases to aid expression, we're going to be improving our writing skills and using clarifying phrases to help convey our meanings to our audience or our readers. And lastly, we're going to examine and convey complex ideas and information clearly and accurately in our writing. We're going to be really building our writing skills and our use of text evidence. Again, the teacher's going to be providing plenty of support and scaffolding to help our L students complete this activity. Teachers could review the lesson objectives for today. Let's take a look at our Do Now warm-up activity. Look at these activities that we did to practice developing our analyses. What do you see? What do you remember? What do you wonder? Good. You may say, in the image, I see important quotes from the story. I think that, or I remember that. These quotes can be used as evidence for the central idea. One thing I wonder is, what happened to Francisco after the story ended? Now, this is a model. Teachers are going to model this writing assignment for students. This week, we are going to practice strengthening our claims by analyzing evidence and providing strong and clear explanations. Now, we've been doing this throughout the week using a variety of tables and graphic organizers to help students analyze quotes and select quotes that serve as good evidence for their central ideas. It says, remember, a strong analysis depends on clear explanations and good evidence. Students should be practicing finding relevant evidence, not just random quotes that don't necessarily support their ideas. Here is a model of how to draft strong and clear explanations using the story Inside Out. Here's our question. How can change affect our growth? So as we know in the story, change was a big theme of the story. Francisco went through some major changes during the story. And in some ways, the butterfly's life cycle is a change of how he started one way and came out very different in the end. Now, change can be positive and negative. Change can affect our growth in a positive way, and change can affect our growth in a negative way. Students should consider the ways in which Francisco changed positively and the ways in which Francisco may have had negative experiences through the changes he went through. For example, I proudly carried the blue ribbon in my right hand and the drawing in the other. This was a significant period of change for Francisco. although he struggled in English, he really succeeded in his art classes. And this is an example of a positive change that he went through. Now we want to explain how that quote is evidence of a positive change. Even though Francisco struggled in school at the beginning, the changes in his life turned out to be positive for his growth as a student. It is clear that change affects our growth in a positive way. Now, it may also be helpful to dive even further into that and to explain how art provided a way to assist Francisco's positive growth. And as he was learning English, his opportunity to perform well in art encouraged and motivated him to succeed in school overall. Now, as we know, Francisco went through a number of negative experiences in the story. Change can affect our growth in a negative way. Now, one example of this, as there were a few, is Miss Galopino started speaking to the class, and I did not understand a word she was saying. The more she spoke, the more anxious I became. Yeah, at the beginning, he was going through a change where he first started learning English, and he was very reluctant and becoming overwhelmed, and he would sometimes space out in class and daydream when he couldn't focus. This also gave him headaches sometimes. This evidence suggests that the new language used at school made Francisco nervous, negatively affecting his growth. This shows that change can affect our growth in a negative way. It may also be helpful to note how Francisco was getting in trouble as he started mixing Spanish into his English from his teacher, who would yell at him. And his friend Arthur would try to avoid him sometimes because he could only speak in Spanish and not English. Now, here we could look. Here is part of the model again with some further details. Explanations are stronger when they provide an analysis that ties them back to the argument you are making. Again, how can change affect our growth? Change can affect our growth in a positive way. I proudly carried the blue ribbon in my right hand and the drawing in the other. Even though Francisco struggled in school at the beginning, the changes in his life turned out to be positive for his growth as a student. It is clear that change affects our growth in a positive way. Notice the use of phrases like even though and it is clear that to signal the analytical statements. Now, this is the part where the student's imagination and creativity comes in. This is where the analysis comes in. This is where the reflection comes in. We want to hear the student's voice, the student's understanding of what was occurring in the story. So by using words like, even though he struggled at the beginning, he turned out better in the end. Or it is clear that he was really struggling and facing a hard time, but it is clear that in the end, he became successful with learning English. Notice how textual evidence is used to create the explanation and analysis in support of the claim. So now students will have the opportunity to find their own evidences and create their own explanations. So again, this is a short writing assignment for our ENL students, but we're going to be providing plenty of support so all students could complete this assignment at their individual ability levels. Now, the way we're going to do this is there's a number of ways, and it could also work out to maybe have students work in pairs. Different types of pairing could be effective. It may also be effective to provide additional modeling for the students and additional support before we even encourage our students to turn back to the story. Now, when students often see these types of graphic organizers, they know the concept of what is going to be expected of them. And sometimes this could be a little overwhelming because they know that these types of graphic organizers require them to go back and to do a close reading of a text that's in a language that may be new to them. So teachers could provide additional support by directing students to places where students could find more information, or in the portions of the story that will be most relevant. For example, students could provide examples of where to find positive changes in the story. Francisco becomes friends with Arthur in school. Francisco starts getting used to the routines in school and picks up some more English words. Now, teachers could help direct students to these sections without giving them the answer. So students would still be finding the evidence on their own, but the teacher would be directing them to the portion of the story, the page of the story, the paragraph in the story, where they could find this information. Negative changes in the story. Arthur sometimes avoids Francisco because the teacher yells when they both speak Spanish. Francisco stands up for himself, but he gets hurt and the jacket rips. Also a part of the story that had a negative change to it. And then again, students could review the model and they could complete their portion here of the graphic organizer using these additional prompts and examples for support. The teacher could add additional examples here or on the board, or could just occur during a discussion time before students begin writing, either on their own or with partners. In addition, students could look back at the week's previous assignments to see a number of examples of evidence, and they could possibly use their writing and quotes from earlier in the week to complete this final assignment. I think this is an excellent assignment for students to build their reading and writing skills, and I think this is an assignment that is achievable for students, yet will push them to improve in their writing abilities. So thank you so much, and I hope you will enjoy today's lesson. Thank you.